Welcome to the knockout stages of the World Cup Challenge. At this time that we're recording this, it's the real World Cup is still in the semifinals. We're waiting to see who joins Argentina in the final, but that's not important since this is the result that everyone is really waiting for. So let's kick things off here. The prompt for this challenge was the following: each participant had to choose a country to root for in the World Cup, and then use data visualization to tell a single-page story of their history with the World Cup, their road to Qatar, and then their expectations for this tournament. So that was the task for the entrants. What we had to do was select the top 16 entries for the knockout stages of the tournament. The catch, though, that we could only one entry per country could qualify. That, of course, being the country that they chose, not the country that the participants are from. So this is actually the round of 16 right here. And we already kind of chose the winner for the round of 16. And what we're going to do right now is discuss our process and start the eliminations in the quarterfinals. So the criteria that we have used and that we're going to use right now is to choose the winner to advance on each matchup based on the insights, creativity, design, visualizations, and overall storytelling ability based on the challenge prompt. So all that said, let's get started with USA versus France.
Awesome. So I'll talk about Sean's entry here on the screen. It's probably a little small to see, but I can walk you guys through what I think was really great. So first, I think the design makes it pretty clear to kind of bucket the different questions that he answered. So at the top, he talks about the US's success on the world stage, then talks about kind of their performance against other teams that are in the group at Qatar, which I think was really clear. And then at the bottom, talking about recent performance, which is still, as you can see from the line in that bottom chart in the third section, still above 50%, but definitely on a decline. And he explains that's not a result of more losses, but largely a result of more draws. So I think that was really clear, chunking up the report and tackling the specific questions really well. Some bonus points for if you're looking at Sean's. I won't run through the jokes here, but he'll make you laugh in the comments on the right-hand rail, which is always fun. And just generally, I think a pretty clear story, and also I think pretty realistic expectations for his team. He's not calling for a win. I think he's calling the data as it lies. So I thought this was a great entry overall.
All right. I will speak to France and George Alexandrus. So you guys know me. I'm a big visual guy. I loved his visual design. Super clean. Nice use of the color palette pulled from the France team logo. Good blend of data and visuals with some supporting text, but not too much. And a really good, intuitive kind of top to bottom storytelling flow. He talks about the qualifying stage at the top, goes a little deeper into the team profile in the middle, and then has a really interesting kind of forward-looking analysis at the end, which I thought was really nice. A quick note here, this was built in Tableau, so he's got it hosted on Tableau Public, hopefully on the Maven Analytics showcase page soon too. But he's added some really helpful tool tips there that you can't see with this static version that actually do a very nice job providing some deeper context and helping make some of the visuals, like that timeline at the top, a little bit easier to interpret. So what I love about this one overall is that I think it does a great job helping viewers feel like they're getting to know the team. That player chart on the left is really clever and well done. I think that scatter plot to the right is probably my favorite visual on the page. It's just a really clear and simple way to draw attention to the fact that this France team is very young, but well above average in terms of goal scoring in the World Cup. And last but not least, at the bottom, I really liked his kind of forecasting exercise. I thought he took a really smart and unique approach. Basically, what he's doing here is he's plotting a two-year window of performance for the 5 France teams that reached the World Cup semifinals or beyond. And he's showing that the 2022 squad is actually on an even better trajectory, and hopefully to become only the 3rd team in history to defend their World Cup title. So really not much to nitpick here. If anything, I thought maybe the sand key diagram, it's beautifully designed, but I didn't feel like it added a ton of analytical value to the report. But overall, awesome job here.
All right, so how are we feeling with this matchup? I think I might be leaning a little bit more towards France. To your point, Chris, I'm glad that you mentioned the context that he added with the tooltips and Tableau. I still feel like some of that information needs to be there even before you have to kind of like hover to get more information, especially like you said in that timeline and in the bottom right charts that don't really have any labels. And if you don't read the text there, you can't really infer what they're showing. It's very polished though, and there's some very smart decisions. I really like Sean's as well. It's, to John's point, it's hard to see until you really see or you really like take a dive into it. But there's some really good stuff there. How does everyone else feel? Any comments? Should we just go straight to the vote? So 1 means US and Sean, 2 means France and George. Everyone ready? 1,
Ready.
2, 3. All right, it looks like
George takes it.
France outscores the US. Next up, Germany versus Uruguay.
Great. So I'll take Cornelius's. I think there was a lot of things that I liked about Cornelius's Germany entry, and we've seen a lot of his challenges make it to the finals. He's a really great participant. But I'll kind of walk through some of the things. I think just in general, one, he's sort of working with a team that has a really good history, and it's he does a good job making a case for them being really strong. So on the left, you have these pie charts just showing kind of their overall performance in terms of their appearances, their match win rate, the goals for versus goals conceded. So just really strong story, I thought there. The next in the top, kind of in the middle to the left, you've got the goals scored versus the goals conceded. And you just see, again, a really strong story overall, especially kind of recently. He breaks down in the bottom there. He looks at the specific team performance and where the wins are. I think that one's really interesting. And it does a good job of pointing out the kind of just historically the potentially tough matchups that they have. So I think he did a fantastic job here. I found everything pretty easy to follow. You know, maybe the bottom right, I think you might say there's a lot of text, and but I actually think it's kind of a cool zoom in on specific players, new people on the team, younger folks on the team, and who are kind of the most seasoned folks too. So it's pretty cool. I think this one is really solid every time Cornelius brings the heat. So awesome job on this, Cornelius. Good to see you in another finals.
All right. And representing Uruguay is Gerard with another unsurprisingly great entry. And there's a lot of things here that I like about this one that I think make it worthy of being considered for a spot in the quarterfinals. First off, he clearly shows everything we were looking for, Uruguay's World Cup history, and then their qualification and expectations for the tournament. And of those, the first part is definitely my favorite. And that one, he shows that Uruguay has the smallest population by far out of all the countries that have won a World Cup, and that out of all those winning countries, they actually only have a losing record against Germany in World Cups. The rest of the report is still good, though. I think the main takeaway that Gerard calls out from the qualification phases is that Uruguay's performance has actually dropped compared to previous editions of the World Cup, and he kind of ties this to their aging squad, specifically their 2 kind of star forwards that have led them in the past. And then finally, he predicts that Uruguay is only going to make it to the round of 16 and getting eliminated by Brazil. By now, we know that they actually didn't make it out of the groups. It's pretty close. If I had to point out some weaknesses, though, it would be that maybe I wish it was a little bit more concise. And I also think some of the scatter plots in here aren't the best visualization choices. There's 2 on here in which the y-axis isn't really specified or labeled. So I don't actually know what that second variable is. And if the purpose was to just focus on one of the variables, well, then I think that the bar chart would have been my choice of visual instead. again, that's just me. I do think the positives far outweigh the negatives here, though, and it does most likely get my vote, but I'm interested in what everyone has to say.
Two heavy hitters here. This is going to be a tough one. Two familiar faces in the
Definitely.
finals, and I think they definitely each have their own strengths and weaknesses. Both super strong on the design side, both with some unique analytics too. So I'm a little bit torn personally.
How does everyone else feel?
I think I know where I'm going to vote, but yeah, definitely very close. And to be honest, I surprised even myself with how I'm going to vote.
All right, I take it that everyone's ready, so let's get to the voting. It's going to be 1 for Germany and Cornelius, and 2 for Uruguay and Gerard. All right, 1, 2, 3. Wow, all right. It looks like Germany takes it, and they move on to the semifinals for what's probably going to be a pretty cool matchup with France there. So next up, we've got England and Thomas versus Argentina and Abel.
I'll go ahead and take Thomas. I loved this dashboard as soon as I saw it. If you are a fan of English football or follow English soccer, this title is perfectly apt. If you didn't even see any references to England, you would probably know which team this dashboard is about. So the organization of this dashboard is really nice. We have sort of this historical look back on England's World Cup history. The general story is that they always perform well, but never can quite make it to that final stage. They've won 1 World Cup. There's a lot of national pride at stake every time they go to the tournament, and they usually let their fans down. We also get a nice visual of win rate by decade. And one thing that I like about the design here is that the left-hand portion, which is this historical portion, is sort of grayscaled and has this sort of newspapery type feel to it. And then we move into the right, which is, hey, we're now in 2022. It's Qatar. What's the lay of the land for this tournament and this squad? And I love the highlighting of several key players by position. Very similar visual here that I think is really effective for kind of projecting how teams are going to do. But we have average age by goals scored, which we saw in the France visual as well. And unlike France, England is just on the cusp of that high scoring piece, but they have a low age squad, which means that they might be present in 2026. The one area where Thomas didn't quite hit the prompt is a projection for the future. So we get a lot of good information on this team squad. And we also see a picture of Harry Kane and a mention of England's penalty problem. So maybe that's a secret projection there, given what we know happened in their last match. But it would have been really nice if we had, England makes it to the quarterfinals, finals, etc. Put your money down where your mouth is. But overall, I think this is a really nice view of England's history and the run up to Qatar. Just really would have loved to see that final projection. But great work all around, and love seeing this entry here.
Okay, I'm going to take Abel, and right out of the box, I say that I think that this is the one to move forward. Why do I think this? Because Abel told me. He states immediately in the upper left side, he states his reasoning, the FIFA ranking, the consistency, and of course, Leo Messi, which is in his, let's say in his prime or just a little bit above, but he's really putting up some great games out there. Everything else in this report moves to support those claims. So it's really clean, really polished. I really love this 100% stacked bars. We see right there that not only Argentina has the best record against their group opponents, but they also actually haven't lost an official game in this decade. Moving down, we have a bit of a history as per the challenge prompt. I love the coloring here on these bar charts. Sorry, but we also see some very specific consistency reporting over the last 20 years. So the line charts that you see in sort of second part of the report, they show that Argentina is almost always above 50% winning rate, and they are almost always, there are just like very few exceptions when they're not in the FIFA top 10. Now, Abel does show some weaknesses of Argentina, which I perfectly like, because otherwise it would just be a fan biased report. But he does show that Argentina had weaknesses. We see that they are struggling against European teams, clubs, countries. And the thing that I probably like the most is the bubble chart at the bottom. So it's really cool. It's a little bit difficult to see at this size, but it's actually a number of matches on an x-axis and the goal difference on the y-axis. And from that, we can easily see that not only Argentina is very good, they're very consistent. They have been playing football for a very long time, and the additional dimension that we see from the bubble size is actually the number of winners, number of tournaments that the team has won. Essentially, the bigger the bubble, the more World Cups the team has under their belt. Brazil would have the biggest bubble. Really cool visual, really cool way to emphasize Argentina's place over the course of history, and I really like this work. I think I'm very excited about the Maven Showcase feature, which we just launched, and I really hope that Abel puts it there because it definitely deserves to be seen. Really, really well done.
Agreed. Thanks, Branislav. And it's looking, at least to me, feeling like another tough matchup here. I think they both have a lot of points in favor. They also both don't like explicitly address like the three elements of the challenge prompt, I think, which is interesting, and which that because they're facing off. How does everyone feel?
It's a tough one for me too. I think the Argentina entry by Abel, it's got, I think, kind of a stronger storyline. And I do love the 100% stack bars, like Branislav mentioned. That said, for the England entry from Thomas, I think that bar chart showing World Cup placing throughout the years, I think that's the most effective way I've seen anyone show that. It's just really clear and simple. So definitely points in favor of both sides. I'm pretty torn on this one.
Okay, so we're going to do 1 for England and Thomas, and 2 for Argentina and Abel. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, it looks like Argentina advances to the semifinals, and like they did in real life, England stays in the quarters.
Another heartbreak.
Yeah, no penalty misses here though, so that's a little bit easier to swallow.
2026 is just around the corner. Don't worry.
Exactly. And next up, we've got the last quarterfinal, in which we have Adam and Spain facing off against Rustam and South Korea. So representing Spain is Adam with this entry here. And the main reason I like this is because I think it attempts to do more with the data than a lot of the other entries that we saw. For their history, he's got these KPIs at the top, which show that actually Spain are less effective in World Cup matches compared to other types of international matches, both in terms of win rate and in goals per game, which is interesting. And he also calls out that they actually missed out on quite a few World Cups when the tournament started, until the format was extended to 24 and 32 teams, which was interesting. And then from there, they made every single World Cup. For the road to Qatar, he also took a really smart approach. I think he tried to find a correlation between different metrics in the matches running up to the World Cup and then their eventual success. It was a smart approach. There were no significant findings, but that's still something to take into consideration, I think. He also analyzed Spain compared to the other teams in the World Cup in this scatter plot that you see here. And it's using goals per game and win rate. And he's placing a special focus on the other teams in their group. And from the scatter plot, it looks like Spain should advance from their group, or at least are better placed to do so than the other ones in their team. And then he finally goes to build a formula that he's using to try to predict matches with the data that we provided. He actually correctly predicted both Germany losing in the group stages, Morocco advancing, and then Spain and Morocco facing off in the round of 16. And his model did predict a draw. It happened in real life. Morocco did end up winning in penalties there. He does have Spain going through here. But I still thought that was very interesting. Overall, though, I think this was a really clever use of the data that he had. My main piece of constructive criticism here, though, would be that it does feel very dense. It's clear to me that he spent a lot of time in the analysis, but I think he could have spent a little bit more time trying to make it a little bit more concise and approachable instead, because there's a lot of good stuff here, but you do really have to dig for it, which ideally shouldn't be the case.
Okay, this is my second favorite of the day. This actually reminds me of my childhood. As a kid, I was a big fan of those sticker albums, and just the cartoonesque design of this report sort of brings me back to those days. I really like it. From the challenge perspective, it touches on all of the prompt pieces, so we see a little bit of history at the top and calling out some big victories. South Korea isn't known as a football powerhouse, but this goes to show that, as they would say, the football is round and anybody can beat anybody. So I like this touch with calling out these victories against World Cup winners, multiple ones at that. Moving forward, we see that Korea dominated their qualifiers. They had like ridiculous defense. They only like conceded 3 goals. But what this report is all about, and what I really like, you will see in a minute, it's really amazing. So this is the final piece, Road to World Cup Champion. Rustam gives us 2 very simple conditions. The result in the last matchup between the 2 teams should repeat. If the teams have never met before, then the higher ranking team wins. Now, there are a little bit some nuances in the fine print, but essentially this is it. And if these conditions were met at the time when Rustam made this report, South Korea would actually win the World Cup this year in Qatar. So that's amazing. I actually did a little digging. I had to go online and check some of the previous results in the international friendlies and some other competitions, but it's really amazing that he was able to unearth this information. I was really amazed. So overall, really nice, really polished report. Maybe not as analytical as some of the others that we have seen, but I just won't say anything against, because I think this is so great. Well done, Rustam.
Yeah, that was really cool. At first, I have to admit, I didn't understand the conditions until you explained them to me, Branislav. And then, but looking at those results, like at least the ones that I know from memory, like the Mexico ones, some good ones in there, beating France, and then the heartbreak against the Netherlands. It does look like it all lines up, and it's super interesting that South Korea would end up winning there.
Yeah, the Germany South Korea 0-2. That's actually the same game which he called out in the big victories piece. They didn't play. That was in 2018. They didn't play after that.
Yeah, I remember that one too, because that qualified Mexico to the round of 16 in that World Cup, which was nice. So let's see if they advance here. Anyone have anything to say before we go to a vote? Is everyone decided? Let's do it then. We're going to go Adam and Spain 1, and Rustam and South Korea 2. 1, 2, 3. All right. It looks like the prediction can still come true. We've got South Korea in the semifinals against Argentina. All right, so that's the quarterfinals, and it leaves us with the semifinalists. We're going to have France and George against Germany and Cornelius on one side, and then Abel and Argentina and Rustam and South Korea on the other. So time for another round of elimination. First up, let's do the European matchup, France versus Germany. What do you guys think?
I'm probably inclined to vote for France. I have to admit I didn't enjoy the color palette as much as Chris did, but on the other hand, I did like the Sankey chart just because so many people use it and not very good. This is one of the clearest use cases that I've seen in this or any other challenge for that matter. And I really also like the scatter plot. So I don't like France in terms of football, but probably my vote is going to go there.
I don't know. I feel like I might give the edge to France from a design and layout standpoint, but I think Cornelius went a little bit deeper with his Germany submission in terms of the analysis itself. This is a tough one. I don't want to bias anyone. I'm leaning slightly in one direction though.
Yeah, I'm on Camp Cornelius. I thought all of it was really clear, and it's to me that I love the analysis. I think it's a compelling argument. Obviously, he's working with a team that has a lot of winning history, and he's making that case. So that's in his favor, you know. But I think it was pretty compelling and just really good storytelling to me.
My hardest thing is not penalizing teams that have been eliminated from the tournament, like subtracting like a point, you know. But yeah, both are very close.
Yeah, I like Cornelius as well. I think the top of it is what I like the most. I like how he showcases like in the times that they've made it very far, they've won the World Cup, they have a very high goal differential. And then he next goes to show that they've had a very high goal differential coming up to the World Cup. The third piece is where he loses me a little bit, showing like I think it's all their World Cup matches ever, a lot of which are against teams that aren't really in this competition. I would have liked it to be more focused on like the teams in the tournament and specifically the teams in the group. He does call them out. That's just me nitpicking there. I really like the top piece. It's going to be tough. Does everyone feel like they're ready? So we'll do France and George. It's going to be a 1. Cornelius and Germany is going to be a 2. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it looks like France
takes it.
makes
Wow,
it
so
to the
close.
final. That's super interesting because they're playing in like 4 hours. Let's see if that holds. Really good report by Cornelius. So I think it was very worthy of being in the final as well. But that's just the nature
that was a solid matchup.
Nature of elimination football. So next up, we've got Argentina versus South Korea for another very interesting semifinal. Opening thoughts here?
I'm probably the most confused that I've been. I would say Abel has a much stronger case in terms of analysis. Probably, if I look at the design and how I would do it, that's probably closer to it. I'm not a big artist, but I so like what Rustam did with his prediction that I'm seriously torn here.
Yeah, I give Rustam serious points for the clever and novel approach. We've never seen anything like that, especially among submissions for this challenge. So I think that's great. When I look at Abel's report, it's just so many data viz and design best practices that we preach here, like just the clarity and the pre-attentive attributes and the way that he's using design principles very clearly. I love the headers of all the text he's using too. It's just so compelling. So 2 very different approaches here, both strong in their own merit. But I think I've got my vote personally.
All right. Yeah, it's a tough one. I agree with all your points. I think for me, what might edge it towards South Korea is that they more clearly answered all 3 things in the prompt. So history, road to Qatar, and then expectations. This one, I didn't really feel that same structure, but it's a hard one. I think I'm ready to. If everyone else is, I think we can move it. We can move it to the vote. So this is going to be 1 for Abel and Argentina, and 2 for Rustam and South Korea. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, we've got
wow, 3-2.
Unbelievable. Argentina, like in real life, makes it to the final. It's going to be. This isn't fixed, by the way, but we could have the same exact final as in real life, which is pretty unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Let's see who wins though. So we still have one more vote. Probably going to be our toughest one yet. We've got George and France against Abel and Argentina in the final. No Mbappe or Messi here. Just a whole bunch of charts. So let's see who takes it. What does everyone think? This is tough, right?
Yeah, I know. We've whittled it down to, it just gets harder every round. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be, but it's just excellent dashboard, excellent visuals here.
Yeah, you think with everything that was said already, it would be at least a little bit easier, but it's really not.
I know where I'm going. Don't want to bias anybody, but
yeah, I think
I think I'm there too.
All right, let's do this.
Let's do it.
So we've got World Cup final here. 1 for France and George, 2 for Argentina and Abel. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Wow.
Another
So close
3-2.
again.
Another 3-2, and Argentina is our Maven World Cup champion. Let's give
Congrats.
Abel a round of applause. Congratulations.
That was a lot tougher than I expected. Every round felt very, very close.
A lot more fun than I expected as well. This was really, really cool.
That's true.
Yeah, really, really solid group.
All right. So again, Abel, congratulations. We don't have a golden trophy for you to lift, but you will be taking home a free annual membership to Maven Analytics for yourself, and you'll have another one to give away to anyone you'd like to. So cheers to that, and congratulations once again. That's it for this challenge. Thanks again to everyone that continues to participate. We've got a special showdown for the next one. So please stay tuned, and thank you.